Centralizing, buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for their war. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on my favorite little network, UCY.TV. I'm your host for the next 2 hours. It is the 3rd of September 2017. And tomorrow, it's me and my mommy's birthday. And I was the firstborn on Labor Day, on my mom's 18th birthday. How's that for some wild crap? And I've been a pain in her ass ever since, she says. Anyways, I'm pleased to say that Michelle Lama is going to come on my show in about 10 minutes and hang around about 1:45, I guess. And so that's much appreciated. And I'm not sure we've ever been on a show together or not. I can't recall. But it'd be good to hook up and have a chat about some stuff that's important. Looking forward to that. I'd like to, what I want to talk about today is his thoughts on President Trump. I mean, Trump's hooked to Israel pretty tight, I think. And I'm dealing with my own problems this side of the border. There's something shaking down. And, Trump said, make America great again, which I agree with 100%. That's the message that has to go out. These are our nations, and we got to hang on to them. And they're coming at us from every damn direction now. Planned it for, ever since our nations were first formed. So I'm looking forward to that. See, I didn't know that. According to Christopher, Shawley introduced me to UCY.TV, so tip of the hat for that. I got an interesting little comment. A lot of people are getting tired now. I know I'm tired. I get to bed till 3:30 in the morning. But I got a nice note from a gentleman in Texas over on in the notifications on Facebook from Ivan in Texas. And if you're listening, Ivan, I want to give you a tip to the hat. Thank you very much. This is the Great Awakening, and it's taken a long time because a lot of people got to search through a lot of stuff. A lot of people got to hit a lot of disinfo sites before they understand. And so this note from Ivan from Texas just says, "Thank you, brother. How can we talk about the fall of the West, brother?" Well, the West is not going to fall, Ivan. That's a given. We're going to take it, and we're going to put it in the position it should have been in for a long, long time. But he says he spent thousands of hours connecting the dots and find you and Hal, if Hal's listening, to be right over the target. So that's nice. I'm finding that people are waking up pretty quick now. Not so much the guys. I'm still working on the guys, but the ladies. The ladies really seem to be getting it. And I want to say how much I appreciate it. All the ladies, they're doing some phenomenal work, and they get it now. And there are more of them are getting it all the time. And I say this all the time when I look at the comments on a post on Facebook. I find that the ladies seem to be more articulate and more zoned in, where the guys are, easier to say, he's an F and he can die and stuff. Just what I call childish comments. The ladies, on the other hand, seem to have a deeper feel for what's actually taking place, and so to the ladies, just keep doing what you're doing, please. Now, I called out the premier of Saskatchewan some time back, and I got jumped on it pretty hard. I got jumped on it for pretty hard for it. That he was the greatest premier that Saskatchewan had seen, and that's not quite true. I explained that that Brad Wall of the Bilderberger. Oh yeah, well he might have went to it, but he's the best premier we've ever had. Well, I want to put this video into the chat. This is Prime Minister Trudeau. That could be true. I just got a message from Chris there. It says, I'm talking about the women stepping up, and that makes probably pretty good sense. He just left a note that our women don't want to be raped, and guys, we got a job to do. But anyways, this is a video of Prime Minister Trudeau in Saskatchewan with a group of like 10,000 Muslims. And if you listen to this, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We have to get this fixed. And I just wrote, Trudeau's message could not be any clearer. The enemy is inside the gates, and the, quote, government is aiding the enemy, which makes the government part of that enemy. This nation was not founded on the principles of Islam. We have a duty to our forefathers, children, grandchildren, those not yet born. The enemy is inside our gates, and it is time to drive the enemy from our nation. We are engaged in a spiritual, psychological war, a war we must win. I'm going to dump this in here, and for you folks in America who have Mr. Trump at the head of your nation right now, this may freak you out a little bit, but it's no different than when you had Obama in there. This is our Obama light, I suppose, white Obama, and his wife is Trudeau's wife is as insane as Obama's wife. And they're players, and they are determined to take down our nation. If you look at how much airplay, positive airplay, Obama is still getting in the liberal media compared to the president, usually when someone is done their term, they kind of filter off into the background. But the Obamas and Clinton seems to still be front and center, at least in the media up here in Canada. So, yeah, I'm going to put this into the chat, take a boo at it, because this is what's going on. And this is not good by a long shot. We got to nip this in the bud. We should have nipped it in the bud a very long time ago. We didn't, but we will. And all I can say about this is some people are frightened, some people are afraid and nervous. There's nothing to be fearful or nervous about. We are going to take our nations back. It's that simple. Why? Simply, we don't have a choice. We do not have a choice, and we got to, grab the bull by the horn, so to speak, and rise up and kick the living hell out of the ugliness that has descended upon our nations. And it's a glorious time. There's not a, I don't know, this is just a phenomenal time to be alive. You know, we have right in front of our eyes, revisionist history taking place everywhere. Pulling flags, pulling statutes, pulling nameplates, street sign names. Up here in Canada, they want to remove the first Prime Minister's name off of schools and that. Okay, they want to wipe the slate clean. And that idea behind that is the children entering school, there's no memory. They have no memory bank. And the state gets the children and fills the kids' empty little heads with whatever they want. And that's exactly what they've been doing for quite some time now. Which means we've got to get the kids out of the schools. We got to get our act together. And I'm going to say it before Shali comes in, but we got to run for local government. I hate politics with a passion. It's used to deceive and divide our people. It always has been. That's what it was set up to do. They've done a very good job. We have to kill the party system. It has to go bye-bye. There is no room in our nations for the divisions that these parties bring forward. So that has to go goodbye. But we really got to get hold of our local councils. The influx of Muslims into our nation in particular, they're putting them in all we're going to end up with here in Canada is we're going to end up with government bodies that are made up specifically of three groups of people: Marxists, LGBTQ, and Muslims. Now, you think you're going to be able to do anything about this mess once this group of people are actually writing your laws? You're screwed at that point. So what you need to do is you need to step up to the plate. You need to drop that $100 or $200 down. You need to run. Now I'm going to run for mayor. The last thing I want to do is be the mayor of this town. The last thing I want to do. But it's got to get done. So there's no excuses. I don't like excuses. And there are no excuses. The future of your countries is at stake. The future of your children, your grandchildren, those not yet born is at stake. It's time that people quit worrying about them frickin' selves. You're not important. The future's important. And if you can't stand up today, you become totally responsible for the demise of your nations and the demise of the future for your children, grandchildren, those not yet born. And at the same time, what you're doing is you're thumbing your frickin' nose at your forefathers who came here to get out from the Buddha that was stomping on them. Now, if you can't raise yourself up to do something at this point, then you're as guilty as those trying to take down the country. Anyway, Shawley, my friend, do we got you?
Yeah. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I hope you got yourself a good cup of coffee going.
I did.
Good man.
I did.
Good man.
I pissed off this morning, Ron. I'm just fed. I am fed up.
Well, you know, I've been fed up since the 70s.
I know.
But it's coming. It's coming.
Did you see this? That Linda Sarsour woman. All right.
Okay.
And the only thing that she says that makes any sense whatsoever. Do you know who that is?
No.
Linda Sarsour. She is she's a Muslim woman who is a kind of a leftist. And what she did was she solicits donations for a Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund. That's actually a leftist organization group, and chances are the money, whatever money that she's gotten there, and I think somebody's going to shut it down. I would imagine if that's the case. The only thing that she says anything positive about is, about the Palestinians, which I think is just a ruse, because I think I know exactly who she is and who put her in power. Whatever power she has, I don't claim. I don't understand that she has any power. But she says that she's for Palestinian, for free Palestine and all that other shit. But then she talks about just ridiculous. Anyway, not.
Well, this is what they're doing, though. I mean, they're all players, and
Right.
they will play whatever role works at any given time.
Exactly.
So, like in my little town here, we have a new preacher in the church I grew up in, and left when my gut told me there was something desperately wrong here, that these guys are on the wrong side of this thing. So now they got a new preacher in the church who is a Muslim, and but he's saying that he's moved over to being a Christian now. But if you listen to his sermons, I listened to his first talk at the church, and the people are going, "Oh, isn't this wonderful? He was a Muslim man, now he's a Christian." No, he's not. He's still a Muslim, you twits.
And I mean, is it a like a corporate Catholic church? I mean,
it's Pentecostal church, but the Pentecostal church, they changed their name to the Harbor Church, so they've changed their names to all these things, but they're still all Pentecostal churches. And when I look at it and I follow their main sites through, they're absolutely pro-Islam, right? And this guy, is sitting there. He's got 4 kids now, and he says, "I'll have many more." And when I first met you last night, I met a lot of people, and I tried to remember a bunch of names. So if I call you John when your name is actually Judy, excuse me. When he's standing at the pulpit going, "But hey, you all look the same to me," right? I mean, and when I listened to his passages, and I went and I put what he said and Islam beside it, these are quotes right out of the fucking Quran. Right, with the twist on it, right?
Yeah.
No. All of these people, like that lady you're talking about, these are all players. These are all disinfo agents. They're all they're agents.
Well, I mean, it's obviously a when you find out that the UN is involved in all of this. The redistribution of people all over the world in different areas of the world, and I as far as the Muslim religion, I mean, from what I've seen, we hear that, or at least from what I've seen, people they can be very, very peaceful people. They have their ideas and things like that are not that. We hear things about a Jewish Talmud and things like that are just, if people read it, if non-Jewish people read it, then they should be killed. So, I mean, I don't know what to think. I don't want to just, for me, and I'm not saying this is your stance, I don't want to just hate a group of people because they're, because they are Muslim or they have some other religion. We've all been led astray.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and I agree with that.
Right.
Like, I don't have. I remember when I was a kid in Renfrew, Ontario. I was like about 11 or 12, and the first black family moved into town.
Right.
So they were originally from South Africa. Then they went to England, and the father was a teacher. So they came over and were living in our neighborhood, and had two sons. And so the younger son was my age. Then we were walking down the street. He was a hell of a nice guy, right? And we were walking down the street, and the friggin' hate that was tossed his way was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right. And I really took that bad, right? You end up in a lot of fights defending this kid.
Right.
But it was something was integrated into the people, which is no different that was integrated into our people about the native people. Okay, they were called savages and all kinds of weird things to make that hate, right?
Yep.
And I've met lots of natives, and they're very quiet, calm, nice people. We destroyed them with alcohol, which they find what will mess these people up. We stole their children, stole their society. We genocided them. And the average person had no connection to a native whatsoever, but they just simply, because of the media and the rhetoric and that all natives are useless, so on and so forth, drunks. So that gives the government the opportunity or the okay to do whatever the hell they want with the natives, right? I don't have a problem with any individual. It is the what's moving the groups in that, okay?
Right.
And the Muslims have been bombed to death, and that's all part of the plan because it's the UN trying to build an infantry. And I don't care what anybody says. The connection between the Jews and the Muslim integration are tight.
Sure.
I was told when I was young that, our nation has found it's a Judeo-Christian nation. Well, wait a minute. When you get thinking about it, what comes first stands above. Well, if you look at Judaism, we're the goy and we're the slaves, and we're the one to pay interest, and so on and so forth. We're the labor. We're the drones.
That's right.
And so our courts are basically Talmudic, and so we've been held in a bad position. We've never been a free people.
Nope.
And so they're coming in for the kill now. So do I have anything against an individual Jew? No. But anything against an individual Muslim or a native or a black guy or a Mexican? No. Okay? These people get caught up and they have the movers and shakers, right, in the particular groups.
Yeah.
The average man or woman, whatever their race or religion might be, are basically being conned just as badly as we got conned.
That's right. We're all just pawns.
Right. And so we need to get our peoples together, right? Like, I'm desperately trying to get the natives together because ever since not since, but I mean, I met natives working out west and that, super nice people. And I don't know how they're as peaceful as they are. I'd be pissed if my nation had gone through what they went through. So it builds hate, and it builds distrust, and it builds separation. But we're all the same, right? We're all people, and we're allowing this extremely evil group of people to destroy us.
Yeah,
and we got to stop that. But as far as the Muslim influx goes, it's very dangerous because it's bad enough the Jews, run our media, because the Jews that first came over here, I guess it was the Rothschilds, came over and they said the first thing you do is get control of the 25 most important newspapers, right?
That's right.
So they control your TV message, they control your newspaper, radio, movie message, and we just follow along like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me this morning, man, but I was just.
I heard you were a little upset.
I just, and it's not so much the Nord-Duels, the evildoers, the people that are behind the way that people have been labeled, and the way that they have been, whether it's labeled religiously or labeled, economically or however many different ways there are of labeling people, that is what they've done. And it's our fault that we just allow this.
There you go. It's our fault.
It doesn't, how long it takes for these people to manufacture consent like that.
Yeah.
That's fast. And then we just consent to like whatever it is. I mean, you see what happens in here. And when I really, really think about it, when I think about most people don't really truly give a shit. Okay. I know you and me, we're kind of the anomaly. But that doesn't make us better than anyone else. But the bottom line here is that we have these people that will take money to go out and protest because they've got no other recourse. They're either economically nothing because of the slow destruction of the U.S. economy. So that they take, from what I heard from a number of people, and then I heard Greg Palast on RT talking about the white supremacist and all this other stuff, where he obviously chooses a side, and it's usually the one that is, when you hear these people say, just like they wanted Trump to make a choice, to choose right away, and if he didn't choose what they wanted him to, the choice that they didn't want him to say. Well, actually, I think they wanted him to say that it was, there was blame on both sides, but they wanted him to come out and denounce the white supremacist, and then everybody else there was just there naturally of, grassroots, hating whatever. People in America they're not protesting like before, like years ago. You and I would sit there and say, God, we got to get people to realize what's going on and to protest what's happening. Well, what are they doing? They're protesting the wrong things.
Well, I've never been a protester. I don't believe in protesting.
Well, I just think that,
I believe the whole protesting thing is it's like everything else. You have facilitators and consensus, right?
True.
So most of the protesters, like you said, don't have a clue what to protest, and they don't care.
They're getting paid.
Something to do, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we're getting a few bucks, right? So that they have no allegiance to anything, and they're very simple-minded. They go protest this today and protest the opposite tomorrow if necessary. They don't care.
Right.
So it's just theater.
Yeah.
And the reason I don't protest is because protesters are those throwing pebbles at the castle walls. You're going to sit there and throw pebbles at the castle walls so they blew in the face. You're going to hurt the castle wall. So as long as the protesters are out there, those that are running this show feel pretty confident. You know, as long as people are just protesting, they don't care. And because they control most of the protesters, they're pushing their programs forward. And it's all set. Protesting is set is another divide and conquer. They're just like religion and politics.
Well, I think what we want them to do is be aware of what's going on. We want them to open up to what's going on. And then you see people out there that doing like God only knows, there might not have been any grassroots people there at all in Charlottesville,
right?
In Berkeley, a lot of these places where these things broke out. But the bottom line here is that that large percentages of it were people being paid.
Oh yeah.
When people go out there, and they put a mask over their face.
Mm-hmm.
What is more cowardly than that? It's like you're protesting, but you don't want anyone to know who you are. And then, of course, what happened in Berkeley? They stood down. The police stood down while these people were smashing, plain pane glass windows in these universities, at these locations, and they stood down. It's like, what are we seeing here? I mean, these people are out there. If I walked down the street and I took the steel rod that I have out and started smashing windows right in front of police, what would happen to me? I'd be arrested. I'd be arrested instantaneously. These people go out, they put masks over their cowardly fucking faces, and they smash things up. And what do the people in Berkeley do? They stand down. They stand down.
But you got to understand, they run on templates, right?
Yeah.
They got a whole wall full of templates, and they just pick off whatever template's going to work at the time. Now, you can see, it's always order out of chaos. And I was a kid in the 60s and just becoming a teenager at the end of the 60s. And when you look back at all of that chaos, the Vietnam War, we still have the wars. We have the change out from, country and western and Elvis Presley into hard rock and roll. We have the free love movement. As a separation, it was all chaos. We had the civil rights movement. We had lots of destruction in Detroit and Philadelphia and all that kind of stuff. And what we're witnessing today is basically just the same template. It's the same damn game going again, right? And they just use these templates. So what it does is it separates people. A generation, my generation, I'm in my 60s now, watching a television set with these masked people with iron bars busting up cars and windows, and the cops really not doing that. All that's designed to do is to close people down more. Okay. Now, people should be rising up and go, why the hell didn't you arrest that guy? They should be madder than hell. But they I call this a spiritual psychological war. And it is psychological and it is spiritual. So these people tend to close themselves in. It's not unlike that movie where everybody was fearful, that movie Network, where you got this mouthpiece, yammering on about the multinational corporations taking over everything. And he's pissed because the station's been taken over by some multinational. And he was, mad as hell, not going to take it anymore. Just leave me alone with my steel-belted radios and my toaster and my TV set, right? And that's just mentally closing people in, right? On the one hand, you're being supposed to go shouting mad as hell, not going to take it anymore. You know, I remember people when the bars closed when that movie came out. They'd come out and they'd be shouting around the streets, "I'm mad as hell. I ain't going to take it anymore." These are always test things as we move, but the people consented to closing themselves in. The neighbors quit talking to each other, right? It's all separation. It's all isolation. So then you put these images on the TV set, and every time you pick up the news, and because these people they don't read anything other than what's put right in front of their face, and they read very little of that, and they don't understand what they're reading, they don't understand where the story got concocted from. It puts fear into them. It makes them feel weak. And that's the whole point. And then they can do with you whatever the hell they want. That's the only way that they can take control of the masses. And they're doing a very, very good job of it. These guys are pros. You know, I mean, I look at them sometimes and I'm just in awe. I'm like, man, these guys are good. You know, we're trying to put some core people together, and that's difficult as hell. You know, I got to tell people, you know, you got to take your egos and you got to throw them things away, right? We got a job to do, and ego just messes things up. I was telling some guys, I said, you know, when the guys that made the Fed sat down, I'm sure that these guys were in disagreement with a million different things. One might be pro this and anti that, and the other guy's opposite. But what these guys did was they had a plan. And they didn't let their egos get in the way of the plan. And they put their plan in place, and they initiated their plan. And that's what we have to do. I got trouble now. I got a Muslim from Kingston on here.
Chris,
Mr. Muslim, would you like to say something?
Yeah.
Ouch.
I gotta damn it. I gotta get
speaking pretty good English now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stop the radio program.
Uh-huh.
There we go. Sorry, guys. Hey, Charlie.
hey,
You know, I'm very humbled to be with you guys and Ron allowing me to get on with you.
You could have just messaged me anytime before this and say, "Hey, I want to talk with you on air, man," and you would, and it would have happened. I mean, my program's not. There's nothing real special about Cold Reality Radio. It's, as I said this morning, it's, you know, from 2011, from Blog Talk Radio to Oracle Broadcasting, and then to UCY. Everything that I've ever done was just my journey through this nightmare, you know, holy. And, you know, I've had guests on and things like that. So you're more than welcome anytime on Cold Reality Radio. You just, you know, I mean, we friended each other before on Skype. You know, you could have said, "Hey, you know, I want to talk with you or be on the show," and it would have happened. I'm not.
See, I don't see this as a nightmare though, Charlie. I don't see anything but positive.
That's good.
This is our time, and we're either going to get done what needs to get done, or we're not. We keep telling people the people have absolutely no right to bitch about a politician, or to whine and bitch about this and that if they're not going to step forward. You have no right. Okay, if we go down, go look in the mirror, because that's whose fault it is.
You know, as I said this morning, it's the people out there. It's the commenters out there that think that they have it all figured out. The ones that you know, listen to my comments and then think that I'm out in fucking left field, and they think that they understand. In their 20s, they think that they understand, you know, everything about the world, and it's just disgusting. I mean, and they don't even. And then they'll constantly say, well, yeah, we'll do a podcast and everything, and it never happens because they know deep down inside that, and not that when I say I'm right, that doesn't mean that I'm all powerful being, but it's just that they know that what I'm telling them is truth. Deep down inside, they know it. It's just that they're too much of a thumbsucker to actually admit that they are the reason, that their mentality, their stance, their worldview is the reason why we're in the shit that we are.
Yeah, but the problem is that they separated the generations. Okay, if you go back to after World War I, when Wilson was running around telling America they had to sign on to the League of Nations, and America didn't sign on because America still knew, because the families were still together. Okay, the children and the grandparents and probably the great-grandparents, if they were still alive, were all totally connected. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the information that was important was always in that group of people. So when Wilson's running around going, if we don't sign this, there's going to be another world war in the not too distant future. Well, how does he know that? Because the boys told him that. Hey, Wilson, get this thing signed. There would have never been a World War II if America had signed on the League of Nations. But America wouldn't sign on the League of Nations because their generations were still connected, and they still had the understanding of why the hell they fought the War of Independence. And the idea of giving up any independence whatsoever was a no-go. So right after World War I, what do? They ramp up the public school system hard. They separate the children. They start, a child has an empty brain. Okay? It's an empty vessel. You put whatever the hell you want in there. Okay? And they separate the generations. And a perfect example of that was down on Kennedy's 50th anniversary of his 50th anniversary of his assassination. A guy went down to Texas. What's that place that Jones hangs out in? What Texas is that?
Is it Austin?
Austin, Texas is just a shithole I mean, that's bubbling the stuff down there. But this reporter goes to the university to get the thoughts on the students on the 50th anniversary of Kennedy's assassination. He didn't find anybody in there that even knew as Kennedy had been assassinated. Like, they're looking at the reporter going, what? All we know about Kennedy is he died while he was in office.
Right. Because
there's no connection. It's the same thing when I was in the 60s growing up, right? My mom was listening to, Perry Como and all these guys, Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley and stuff. And we were listening to, the Stones and the Beatles and whatever else is cooking. And we're being fed a totally different message. And we know everything. I mean, I'm 16 years old. I know everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but what we were taught in school was different than what our parents were taught. But we don't know that because we don't have the connection. Parents are out working and so on and so forth. So the state's got the kid's brain.
And there's one thing for sure. When Martin Luther King's birthday comes around, the media, I don't know what goes on up there in Canada, but every time when Martin Luther King, they will reaffirm that he was killed by a white guy. All right. So they always make sure that these pieces of information are recycled. Okay. Yeah. Whereas Kennedy's assassination is just slowly dwindling and being and receding from a narrative, right? It's like you said, they went to Austin. They're like, Kennedy, they don't know. They don't know, because then people will look into that. What else? Malcolm X. I've been listening to a lot of his audio clips, and he would sit there and how he would speak about Martin Luther King was, and he would say, I mean, very powerful. I mean, I'm sure you've heard some of them before. If you haven't, look into it. But he would say things like, he said, both the Republicans and the Democrats, they're both the same. He said, you have to watch out. He said, you have to watch out for the Democrats because they'll say that they're your friend and they'll do all these things like, you know, just to prop you up. And he said, you got to watch out for these black leaders when they're propped up by these white Democrats.
Jesse Jackson rolls in my brain there.
So Jesse Jackson is a perfect example of him being propped up by that element of. But I don't think that Malcolm X was that particular type of guy. I think that he was out there saying
he was a Muslim. He was a Muslim, and I listened to a lot of Malcolm X a long time ago, just trying to figure out who's up to what, right? And I'm not so sure he wasn't completely. He was a young black guy. He was pretty articulate. Got picked up, you know. And what happens is they target people, and they stroke their egos, and they make them feel important, and then they use the shit out of them, right? Right. And so I'm not so sure if Malcolm X wasn't used as well.
I think that there was more. I think that King was definitely
like
used.
I think when they were done with him, they just shot him, right? I think the same thing with Martin Luther King. When they were done with his message, shoot him, get him out of here. It's no different than when you look at that movie Network. When they were done with this mouthpiece, right? They shot him.
Right.
You're out of here. We're done with you. You played your part. Goodbye. Right.
Yeah.
So you know, it's been a bad long game. But what's really positive? I was talking to, I don't know if you know him or not, Barry Prince out in British Columbia. And we were talking.
Yeah, Barry.
We were talking about the kids and that, how we got to get connected to the kids again. We got to join this back together, right? We're never gonna move forward if the kids are being taught, you know, that they want to dress up like girls when they're boys and shit like that. We you know, as long as we're fighting with them, we're not going anywhere because we're just separated. But it's been a long haul, and I'm a firm believer, and I want people to understand this: is that propaganda is a product, and it has a shelf life, and like every other product, it has a best before date. And the propaganda that they shove through the kids in basically, I guess the last generation, because my nephew's in his 20s now. But when they were shoving all this shit with Al Gore and all that stuff, and the renewable energy and that, those kids were open to that because it sounded plausible. It scared the hell out of them, right? And they blamed the parents, and that's what they were told to do: blame the parents, separate yourself from the parents, blame the parents for the state the world's in, because they polluted your world, right? They put the planet at risk. And it scared the hell. I had my nephew when he was like 12 or something. You know, he said, I got friends in my class can't sleep at night. They're scared to death. But that was no different than the Cold War, where we were told duck and cover, right? Sure. Same shit, separate and fear. But now the propaganda is so haywire. It's so over the top now that when I'm talking to 14, 15-year-old kids, you know, and I'm saying, you do realize everything your teacher is telling you for the most part is a lie? And they go, yep. And, you know, you take Chris's kids, and when I was talking to Barry Prince there last week or whatever, he has a 17-year-old daughter, and he's been pounding this stuff at her, and she's just going, oh, geez, my dad's one of those conspiracy theory guys, right?
Right.
But then eventually she goes and does a little bit of research, and now she realizes her dad isn't a conspiracy theorist, that what she's been taught in school is a conspiracy. But now he says she's scared to death now, right? Now, Chris has got 3 kids, and his 2 older kids, some may get some of it, but they're not really that interested. But yet his 15-year-old son, who is going to come on our show here, come on Rock the Boat here, hopefully in the not too distant future, he's only 15 years old, gets it.
Right.
Okay, so we're a long ways from done. We're just getting started. You know, this is not a lost cause. You know, and it doesn't take the masses. If you look at any coup, and what we're doing here really trying to accomplish is a reverse coup. We've had our nation stolen from us, if we ever had them in the first place. But it's just a reverse coup. And if you look at the history of coups, what happens in a coup is there's very few people involved in it. And like I told Alex Jones about 9 years ago when I called in, I said, geez, you've been on the air for 14 years. I don't even know solutions coming out of you. All I hear is bullshit and fear marketing.
Start your own YouTube channel. Start your own local.
Yeah. But then when I got onto this on-air radio stuff, and I don't listen to much on-air radio because most of it was like Jones Light, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's selling go bags and fear mongering like a bitch, and all saying the same message. And so what I told Jones when I called in, I says, "You want to fix this, Mr. 1776?" Well, yeah. Well, here's how you do it. Pull a reverse coup, right? You can take your nation back with as little as 50,000 men, probably 10,000. All you got to do is walk into the State House and arrest everybody. And at the same time, just like Rothschild said, go get the media. So you go get your mouthpieces, your talking heads that can talk on the media, and you're sending a few texts, and you walk into ABC, NBC, and so on and so forth, and you take the damn thing down. And it's as simple as saying we interrupt your broadcasting or your show for a special message. America is now back in the hands of the American people. We now return to your regular programming. And that's it. Because the masses go, what was that, Ethel? Well, Bill, I think we got the country back. Oh, that's good. What's Oprah got to say? I mean, this is what we're dealing with.
No, I think that caused a civil war.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't.
I mean, you know, one of those news outlets would be like, terrorists have 50,000 terrorists have taken.
No, this is what Jones said. Now, Jones had a retired general on the show that day.
Right.
And he says, General, I got this Canadian guy says we just walk in and take it back. And the general says, well, that won't work. Alex, that's what I told that crazy Canadian. That won't work. Because Jones has said we can't do it. Why can't you do it, Mr. Jones? Well, because if we did it, the media would say that they'd let off truck bombs and that and blame us for it. Well, how would they do that? You got the media, you silly bugger. And so he gets talking to this general and he says, you know, about this crazy Canadian. And the general says it won't work. And I love Jones, right? He's such an ass.
Yeah, he's a comedian. He's an
actor, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I told him, General, it wouldn't work. You tell him, General, why it won't work. The general goes, it won't work because if we did that, they'd all run away and there would be nobody there when we got there to take it over. And that's true, because if you look at history is a beautiful thing. If you look at history, the Americans come up and burned down our legislative buildings on the East Coast. And like in the old days where men were men, not little wussy boys, you burn our shit down, we'll come burn your stuff down, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, a ragtag group of some British soldiers, some natives, and some settlers set off to Washington. Mm-hmm. And they were getting pretty nervous the closer they got. They're going, man, this may not work out good for us, right? Mm-hmm. When they got to the White House, it is empty. because they heard they were coming, and the cowards they are. And make no mistake, the people that run your lives are chicken shits.
Of course they are.
Okay? And we allow these chicken shits, which are the weasels and the foxes who have taken control of our houses, and we, the roosters, are off watching the ball game.
Yeah.
So the solutions are there, and I don't want any violence because that's exactly what they're trying to stew up. They want us to go shoot and all this. I got 400 AK-47s. They come to my house, I'll shoot them. Well, then you're dead too. So what did you prove? Nothing. Except now you got a position where the media is get something to play on, right? So we don't give it to them. No, we got to bear down here and act like responsible men and women. And take back our nations. Our forefathers didn't come here for this crap. They came here to get out from under the Buddha tyranny, and now we got the Buddha tyranny right back on us harder than ever. And I'm sure our forefathers are not real impressed with us.
I don't know. I mean, I just have a really hard time believing anything about our history. I mean, when you look at Washington. And you look at all these people now that are related to him, McCain being related to him. I mean, like Clint says, the conspiracy is the actual creation of the United States of America.
Oh, and Canada. You know, I was talking to the Attorney General or a guy from the Attorney General's office when they'd haul us into court one time, and I was talking to him at a break, and the other people, when they see me talking to their people, they don't want them talking to me. And this one highly expensively dressed police guy, not a uniformed police, but a very expensive suited police, is trying to get this AG guy away from me. And the AG guy goes, "No, I want to hear what Ron's got to say." So we talked. And the cop would come in every now and again and try and get him away from me. And he said, no. So when I was done with him, I said, if you follow history back properly, Canada is nothing more than a rebrand of Hudson's Bay Company. And you can say the same thing for the United States. You had the Virginia and the Plymouth Company, and we had the Hudson's Bay Company at the same time, the East India Company. And they were just, what happened in Canada was as more settlers came, the Hudson's Bay Company, which had its own courts, own jails, own governors, is telling the people what they can and can't do. And the people, the settlers back there, are telling the governor and the authorities from the Hudson's Bay Company, "Hey, we don't work for you. Piss off." That's when they went back to England, who had just started the legislatures, and said, "How's that working out for you?" "Really good. The people don't get it." Right? Mm-hmm. Well, can we have one of them? Yeah, we'll send some people over. So then it says that we were given responsible government. We never created a government. It was given to us, same as in the United States. And in our particular thing, it says we were given responsible government, and then it has a caveat attached to it. It says that the word responsible and responsible government doesn't have the dictionary meaning of the word responsible. Well, wait a minute. Why? Who's responsible here then? Because you can't hold. You try and hold a government body or man or woman responsible. It's impossible. So who's responsible? Well, we are. And what does responsible mean? Those who are liable, chargeable, and accountable. We're accounts. You know that. Okay? The lawyers made up legal fictions, which are accounts. They borrow money on our labor. Right? Who's not accountable? Well, those who are not responsible. So we were given irresponsible government, which made us responsible, which in other words enslaved us. So yeah, the history is all screwed up. But when I talked to the AG guy about this, and the cop came back and he says, "Come on, let's go." And the AG guy looked at the cop and went, "You know what?" The cop goes, "What?" "Ron's right." Okay, and so we just got to keep working. I mean, I don't worry about government officials because they're the ones that we gotta straighten these people out. We got to get some. It's like a big deprogramming process here, huge. You know, and the funny part was we're outside having a smoke, and the cop comes up to me and he goes, Ron, I go, what? Can I ask you what you do for a living? I said, I do the same thing as you, Mike. He looks at me kind of because he's in this very expensive Rolex cop's suit.
Prestige.
And, yeah. And so I'm telling him I do the same as he does. He's looking at me going, huh? I said, do the same as you, Mike. I eat children. he just went, whoa. And goodbye, Mike. So, you know, we have nothing to fear because we know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. Okay. So we have the upper hand. We do know what we're talking about. We do know the history. We do know how they play. And so we have to be the educators. It's that simple. That's true. So we can't, I know there's days just, I want to put my foot through the wall, right?
Today was my day for just, no, I just had, I've been off for a number of days. I've been off since Wednesday. Went to the beach and then I just kind of, I just didn't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of sat around and I was like, God, I haven't done anything. And then I just decided at that point, I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on myself. I mean, I'm off for a number of days up until, Tuesday, the Labor Day, another one of these fucking holidays, that, our labor is, I don't even want to know. It's just like July 4th. It's like such bullshit. It's just another bullshit day that reestablishes our slavery.
Yeah.
And so I just been sitting. So I guess that kind of just kind of unraveled today in my, I didn't watch too much. I just kind of watched relatively bad television show.
Yeah. See, I have a television here in my house. It's a small 19-inch television. It's sitting on in a bookcase kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I leave it there. And it hasn't been turned on in years. And it's just a reminder to me of how damn dangerous that thing is. You know?
Is indeed. But hey, Chris, is he still there?
He should be.
Chris.
Christopher.
I'm listening.
Okay, I thought you were putting your hijab on.
You're invited to Cold Reality anytime, my friend. So just reach out, if you want to, jump on for an hour or a half hour, whatever you got, and just bullshit with me. I mean, that's cool, man. You're anytime.
Well, my concern, Shelby, Ron had a breakdown. He won't admit it, but
when did I have a breakdown?
A couple weeks ago on air.
What'd I do?
Well, you sounded very upset.
Well, I was upset.
Shelley has said he's ready to give up.
I did. I said I don't know how much longer I'm going to get.
Well, I do that. You know how often I do this? I was getting my coffee today. I did a show last night from 10 to 12, and then I ran across some stuff that I got reading and looking at, and some videos and stuff. Got to bed around 3:30. Got to get up Sunday morning, figure out a show, and do that for 2 hours. And I'm down getting my coffee, and I'm going, what the hell am I doing? I mean, every weekend of mine is a freaking disaster, right? But then you just do what you got to do, right? You just keep doing it.
Okay, well, you guys called me on. So let me tell you this. If it wasn't for Ron Stevens, Hal Anthony, Ryan Brooks, who's no longer with us on air, he was only 24 years old at the time I was listening to him, by the way, and Shawley, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I would be going to work. I would be frustrated every day saying, why in the fuck am I doing what I'm doing? But you guys have given me the inspiration to keep fighting. And that's why you guys got to keep doing what you do.
Well, I want to make a special announcement today that I was talking to Shawley about earlier, and today's the day that we both go off air forever. So, Chris, you're on your own.
All right, okay. Conjoin the two shows together in one, and I'll just scream all day.
That'll work. No, we in the West have been fed this line of bull crap that we're the best nations in the world, and yada yada yada, and nobody's going to come and get us. And I love that thing that Cicero said that a standing army is less to be feared. And the enemy is inside the gates, has been forever. And we got to deal with it, and we got to take our houses back. And I do believe that we most definitely have to reconnect with the native people. We have to really, if we could go back to a government as the natives set up the government, which is actually real law, which is the law that our Creator put to us. If you look at native law, it's identical to the law we're supposed to have, and that is you bring the two parties together. And if someone is always going to be a victim, where there's no victims necessary in legal system, and the native people, and if you look at the law that was given to us, is do no harm, treat others as you wish to be treated, and if someone mistreats someone, you bring them together, they talk it out, they figure it out, right? And if you did harm, you're supposed to restore it back as close as possible before the harm was done. Shake hands, call it a day, and hope everybody learns something.
Yeah.
And this party system, I mean, if you think about the party system, it's ridiculous. You never vote for your president. You don't vote for your prime minister. Okay, you vote for a party. The party picks the leader. Okay.
And you're never invited to the party. Exactly.
So we need to get back to a system. I brought this up when I ran in the election, and I was on mainstream radio, and I said we got to ditch the party system. What we need to do is you can keep your districts in that, but what we have to do is find what we feel is the best representative for our neck of the woods, and send them down, and we get rid of the two sides, and we put a round table in there, so that there are no sides, and If your neck of the woods has timber and your neck of the woods has iron, we figure out how we work together to get the best for everybody. There's no reason that anybody in the United States is homeless or struggling to keep a roof over their head or unemployed. It's the same thing up here. There are no excuses whatsoever, but all of these things are set up to divide and conquer. Well, I work all the time, and you're taking my money to pay that lazy bastard that won't work. Well, that lazy bastard's probably out there busting his ass trying to find a job. The other ones have given up completely, which gives the bureaucracy a reason to exist.
It's true.
So they create the needs, and then they build the bureaucracies to fulfill the needs. And most of these people that are entrapped in these bureaucracies, that be it mental health or be it unemployment or welfare or anything else, those people are the child services. All of these people that work in these bureaucracies are dependent upon having people who are unemployed and having problems. So they have to create these people.
That's true.
Right? So we just got to get back to the way it's supposed to be.
I have to jump, but thanks for having me on.
Thanks for hanging
Chris,
as long as you did.
Anytime you want to be on Cold Reality, just shoot a message and you're on with me. All right. So, I'll probably have a better outlook next week, but
I feel quite honored that you were on today. I really do. I appreciate it.
I will. I appreciate that. I appreciate what Chris said about him doing what he does because,
Well,
so
he's my man because he listens to shows I don't listen to, and he gets people on my show that I would never talk to otherwise. So, he does marvelous work.
Yeah. Well, reach out to Clint as well. He's he finished up the book and everything. So.
Yeah, I put that book out everywhere I could. That was an amazing piece of work. Holy crap!
And I got to jump, and you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll touch base with you guys very soon. I'm sure.
Fantastic. Have a great
quit, Joey.
Have a good rest.
He ain't quitting. He just getting his batteries recharged. That's all.
Yeah, just going. Just blowing off some steam.
Enjoy what's left of the weekend.
You do the same. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye bye. Well, that was fun. That was good. You still with her? Are you still here, Chris? Christopher. I guess, well, he must be here. He probably went to the can or something. Anyways, yeah, no, that was good to have Shawley on. I don't, we all get angry once in a while. We all get frustrated once in a while. We've been at this for so freaking long. It's ridiculous. But just keep marching on, eh? And we will get things not back to the way they're supposed to be. We're finally going to get things the way they're supposed to be. That's the big difference. And Shawley's absolutely correct. When I was talking about our forefathers, you're talking about the government, that's not our forefathers. Our forefathers came to these lands for a specific reason, and everything was going fine until the lawyers showed up and until our founding fathers on both sides of the border showed up. Our forefathers were basically free for a very short period of time, and then right back under the boot of tyranny, which is unfortunate, But hosts need to stop whining from Hal. And I don't know that we're whining so much. A little bit of frustration. And got to blow it out once in a while, because I'm the one that's always telling my people up here that Canadians are the best whiners and bitchers and complainers on the planet. We've got to stop that. But we do have to understand that we have to rebuild from the ground up. And we have to get back to what was sold to the Americans, government buying for the people. It was never buying for the people, ever. I'm whining. You're whining. Smiley face. Oh, that's cute. No, I enjoyed that with Shawley. Because he gets it, I get it. Hal, who's bitching about me whining, gets it. Is that when you look deep at history, that these people they put up in front of you, most of them were coerced into playing the role they played, and most of them didn't know they were coerced into playing the role they were played. Everybody has an ego, and that's a very dangerous thing, the ego, because people are too easily, they like to have their egos stroked, and they like to make feel important, and then they get put into these roles that they probably wouldn't have been in otherwise. And they use them to move the program, and when they're done with them, they get rid of them. Simple as that. So, it's up to us. Now, I don't know. I'm gonna put that. I think I still have that link sitting here. I'm gonna put that link from that video. Yeah, there it is. if you hadn't seen this video, take a boo at it. That's our Prime Minister out in Saskatchewan discussing or sucking up to the Muslims or the Islamic group. And, you know, we probably get along just, we always have this divide and conquer and this chaos going on, but this Islamic thing is a little bit, it's a whole lot different because they turned both of our nations into secular nations, which means the law was thrown out the window. Whereas in Islam, it is not a secular society. It is a state. And they never separated church and state. So wherever Islam shows up, that's why when you see all of these no-go zones, and people are scratching their head, how come they chase the police out? Well, because they don't recognize them, because it doesn't fit within their state. And they do not assimilate because their state cannot assimilate. It's impossible. It's an absolute impossibility. So as they put their people, like in my hometown here, we have a Muslim who says he's a Christian now, which he isn't. He's a player. He's doing the exact same the Jesuits were told to do, and that's get into these Christian churches and pretend that you're a preacher of their faith, when in fact you want everybody in the congregation dead. Same thing with Islam.
I had a Muslim couple that he was pushing a stroller with two babies in it, and he had his two, 8 and 10-year-old children behind him, and his wife walking 10 feet behind, no joke, at the market that I went to. And I walked by him and I said, "How do you like our system?" He just smiled at me. I don't even think he understood what I meant.
Probably not.
He just smiled. Yeah, good. Yeah, for you, cocksucker.
Well, no, I mean, we're the ones that allowed it. So again, it's our problem, right? We just roll over and step aside. And but because Islam is a state, as they move themselves into, and look here, the federal immigration minister is a Muslim. The Attorney General of Ontario is a Muslim. The Lieutenant Governor of Ontario was mentored by Maurice Strong, was mentored by Rockefeller. So we have some serious bad players in here. The Mayor of Calgary is a Muslim. And as we go forward, those numbers are going to increase. We have, if you look at our legislatures and that, now you go, what country are these people from? We got people wearing turbans. We got Muslims. We got Chinese. We got everybody, but the number, and we got lots of gays in our government, or should I say LGBTQ in our government, and those numbers are increasing. So our ability to control anything as the majority is fallen by the wayside. And that's how they install Islam.
Well,
that's how they turn any state into an Islamic state. If you go back and look in the 60s and the early 70s at Iran looks, the way people are dressed now, looks pretty much like North America. Okay, then turned it into Islamic State, and we got all these people wandering around black bags. Now, is that what we want? If that's what everybody wants, then I had to shut up. I don't think that's what we want. So we have to become engaged in the game.
So it goes back to we built this country. Us white European evil men, and we made ourselves what they call a first world nation,
No, they made us a first
And
world
now-
nation. We didn't make ourselves anything.
Well, I mean, we became
What they created.
successful enough that we could run our farmland. We could build
These are allowances
and
they
tower, and you got these other guys on the other side, the third world countries that are still jumping around fire pits that we taught them how to burn, and so now they want what we got. And then what's going to happen when they get what we got, when they can't figure out what we did? Rome's going to burn again, my friend.
Well, Rome has risen again. That's the problem. Rome has risen again. It needs to get kicked in the teeth again. And, like I was talking to my uncle, who's going to be 90 here in November, still sharp as a tack. We talked about this, and we talked about the Reformation, and he was an Orangeman, which was against the Catholics, and the Geneva Bible, which was the Bible brought over on the Mayflower net, which was basically put in a wastebasket, not by the Pilgrims, but by the controllers, because there was information in there they didn't want people to have. And that Geneva Bible was very plain about the fact that the Pope was a vicar of Satan, not the vicar of Christ, and that they needed to, it was Babylon. Rome was freaking Babylon. And so the reformers went to work, and they managed to do some absolutely phenomenal work. And you consider that the printing press, when Luther got to Rome and looked at it and saw basically a pride parade, was absolutely disgusted with the situation. And the sin tax is, I guess, why you have a sin number. He was disgusted. So he went and put his problem up on the door. That's when the Gutenberg press was just getting going. And these guys managed to get these people to realize what they were being controlled by, and to basically do their best to bust it. Now, if those people could do that kind of work, no social media, no TVs, no radios, nothing. And they did. Like I was telling my uncle, I said, yes or no? Rome took a shit kick in there. Yes, they did. But Rome was allowed to arise again. And we're right back to where we were way back then. And we got to kick the hell out of it one more time. So for them to be able to kick it and us not to be able to kick it, that's just a big excuse. Because of these people who had no communication, no cars, no nothing to get around, managed to kick Rome in the teeth way back then what the hell is our problem today? Our problem today is the noise. Okay? The noise, the mixed messages coming from everywhere. Back then, there was basically two messages, right and wrong. And they chose right, and they went after Rome. Now, Rome rose because if you look at the Roman emblem or logo from way back then, you had the exact same laurel wreath that is around the UN logo today, except then it was a Roman logo, and it was inside that logo was all the lands that Rome controlled. And today, we don't just have that portion of Europe that Rome controlled. What's in that laurel wreath today, and it's the identical laurel wreath, is the world. So Rome has risen again, and we got to knock it back down again. You know, as George Hunt said, you know, they have another logo with a set of hands holding the world in our hands. In whose hands, says George? And that's the question, in whose hands? In our hands? Absolutely not. In their hands. And their intent is to enslave the world equally and control all resources on the planet. And then they will tell you what you're going to eat, how much water you're going to have, how much electricity you're going to have, and so on and so forth, where you're going to live, what you're going to live in, how big what you're going to live in is. And we're going to be run by the Islamic State and the Pride people. Now, if that's what everybody wants, fill your boots. Not what I want. And, you know, I hope to live as long as some of my relatives, well into their 90s. And the beauty of those people was they were still sharp as a tack. So there's a long haul fight we got. It's not that long a haul of fight, really. You know, they've been at this for centuries. We should be able to straighten this out in the next 30 years, or less. But we have to become engaged. And if we refuse to become engaged, then we're going to get exactly what we deserve. Because we allow it, we consent to it. Or as Warburg said in 1950, you know, we will have world governments by consent or by conquest. And what they're doing here in the West is they're getting us to consent. You know, we haven't even put up a fight. We haven't pushed anything back. So when we look at the countries they destroyed, who didn't consent, refused to consent, I got more respect for those countries than I have for my own country. Because at least those people made an attempt to fight back. But luckily for us, we will never get into a firestorm like they did in those other countries. When they took them down, when they spread democracy, because we're already democracies, demonocracies. So we can take our nations back and we can put a stop to this by stop consenting. Pretty much that's it. Just stop consenting.
Well, they don't want to bomb our countries.
They can't bomb them because you can't sell it. You can't sell it.
But I will tell you, if push comes to shove and the fight is on, they will do anything necessary to stop us from getting our countries back.
Well, no, see, that's negative.
Really?
Right? That's a negative position.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. You're making these assumptions that if we try to fight back, they will just crush us. That's negative. That's a loser attitude. And that's the problem. That's the main problem with the West. The main problem with the West is simply we become spiritually, mentally weak, with weak spines. That's the problem.
They've already done that to us.
Yeah, I know. And our job is to strengthen people's minds, spines, and spirits. Okay? And then the consent's over. Once the consent's over, like when we were talking to Clint, when our guys went down to burn down the White House, when they got there, they'd all run away. Just like the retired general said on Alex Jones' show when I called in. These are extremely weak people. They're afraid of us, just like the grasshoppers are afraid of the ants. But the ants, it's a psychological war. Once you realize that we're the ones with the power, boom, done. That's simple. But we in the West here have this innate ability to fold all the time. that we somehow don't have any power. You know, I mean, look at your name. Who the hell's running your nation? A handful of idiots. A handful of weak-minded, weak-spirited people who had their egos stroked. Somebody said they were important and they were doing good work, so they do what they're told to do. But there's very damn few of them compared to the overall population. Now in Canada, if we got 1% of the people, we'd have 360,000 people. We got 3% of the people, we got 1 million people. We don't need 36 million people to take our country back. You know, you go stateside, for crying out loud, you got 310 million or 320 million people there. You take 3% of that, there's no fight. Because they can't fight that many people. And they will run. Just like the ants and the grasshoppers. You're outnumbered. It's just to get people's minds right, get their spirits right, get their spines right. And then it's over. This is the most glorious time in history. Absolutely bar none. What we do with this opportunity is up to us. And if we fail to do what needs to be done, then everything bad that happens to us was brought upon by ourselves, not by them, not by the Rockefellers, not by the Rothschilds, by us. There are no excuses. We got the history, we've got the knowledge, and now we got to teach. And we have to deprogram. And we have to bring the elderly and the youth together. And it's over. People say, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. Well, you know, look at the future they wish to put upon you. And you tell me if it's not worth the effort. Of course it's worth the effort. It's worth everything. It's worth every breath in your body. And I do believe that North America, when this is over, will be the light for the rest of the people on the planet. And then we can get back to running our own nations, and then we can get back to proper trade, and we can stop harming each other. The nations can go back to using their resources for their uses. I mean, we in the West, not us, but the people that control this mess. Why are these nations so poor in that? Because they stole all their resources. They don't have access to their own resources. They put them in debt, and then they can't pay the debt, so they have to give up their resources. Now, what's the difference between that and the West? Absolutely nothing. What have they done? Canada's $1 trillion in the hole. We're only 36 million people. There's no hope in hell ever paying that off. America's 18 trillion or something in the hole. There's no chance of ever paying that back. Okay, so what are they coming after for the debt payment? The resources. The whole plan was to control all the resources on the planet. Or as Rick Rockefeller says, own nothing, control everything. Once they have control of everything, then they have control of every moment of your life. And we can't allow that to happen. So there's no excuse for us not doing what needs to get done. We're not asking anybody to pick up arms and go out in the street and start shooting at each other. This is a spiritual, psychological war. So strengthen your spirits, and we use psychology. The same psychology used as against us. If you're going to get in a fight with a fighter, what do? You study the fighter. To not study the fighter and walk into a ring, and the other fighter has studied you and you haven't studied him, I guarantee you the chances you winning that fight are next to zero. So we've studied who we're fighting against. We understand who we're fighting against. We understand the tools they use to fight us. So now we're in a strong position. And it's time to crawl into the ring. And I guarantee you, we will be victorious. And that's a good thing. It means we win. So I see a note here in the chat from my hero who runs UCY.TV, Jules. There's a strong woman. Been through some medical problems, and did she let that keep her down? Nope. So according to Jules, Clint should be starting his new show here on UCY.TV in a few weeks, and it will be called the Red Pill Sunday School. He's going to do a combination of pre-recorded and live, and it's fantastic. You know, this is a pretty solid group of people in here at UCY.TV, and I'm asking you listeners, if you listen to these shows and you understand that we're not disinfo agents, and that we understand that we have your best interest at heart and the best interest of our nations at heart, I would ask you to do your best to promote UCY.TV, either to your friends and neighbors, or put it on your blogs or your Facebooks or whatever. And let's grow this network. I'm proud to be here. I mean, we banged around, like when I was talking to Shawley earlier. You know, he started out on what was that called? Wherever we started. What the hell was it called? I can't remember the name of it. But I got so fed up with it because we had a back end in there where we could load clips and whatnot in, and the back end there, I was just getting inundated with UN commercials and just made me want to puke. So we got the hell out of there. And then me and my ex-co-host and moved along, and now I'm here at UCY. So it was a shakedown kind of a thing. And, we finally got a network here. We got some really solid people. And that's phenomenal. It took a long time, but the people who now have been banging around on the internet, listen to the right-left boys, are finally starting to understand that that's all a joke, a bad joke. And they're looking for networks just like UCY.TV. So I encourage people to put the word out as best you can, that it might do them some good to tune in and listen to some of the hosts and some of the guests over here on UCY.TV. So, I'm proud as punch to be part of this network. I'm proud as punch to be involved with these people, these other hosts, and especially Jules, because I don't know where the hell we'd go if Jules, took this network down. That would be not a good thing, because everybody will scramble again. So, we have to support and keep this thing running and keep it growing. And this is a very, very good network. Good hosts, intelligent people who aren't easily deceived. And that's what really drove me nuts when I first got on air, the deception that was going on, the disinfo groups that were going on. I thought, how the hell can anybody be listening to this garbage? But it's shaking itself down. And as they say, the truth will rise. We just got to be patient with it. And we are growing people who actually are looking at this with a wide view, not these little narrow views that they were taught to look at things through. So then when I talk to Barry Prince, whenever earlier in the week, when he was explaining his 17-year-old daughter's attitude change. And talked to Chris about his 15-year-old son, who I can't wait to get on the show. His understanding now. So we are, if you will, we're getting that connection, that generational connection together. It's taken a long time, but it's coming. And once the parents and the children are openly discussing what's going on, and each of them are understanding where each is coming from, then we're going somewhere. Okay, then we're getting someplace. Because people like Chris and Barry and so many others who are talking to children or grandchildren and that, if they're not talking to them, then they can't help the child. If we can't help the child, then we can't help ourselves, because we're connected. And the state does everything in their power to disconnect. So there's no reason to be in despair or in fear or anything else. This is a glorious time to be alive. I feel bad for those people who are not engaged. When I went up to get my coffee last night, I was a little bit of a mood, and I was quite angry with my white male counterparts. And the girl at the store, she's outside having a smoke and a coffee. And I said, I'm getting to the point where I just want to walk around. There's one there. I'll go smack him on the head, right? And she said, they've been turned into zombies. They're completely freaking brain dead. Now, I said this last night on the show when I was coming back from getting my coffee. I saw two old friends that I used to hang out with. And so I caught up with them, and I was trying to have a little bit of fun with them. And they're old men, and that's what bothers me. They're old men. They have no interest in anything. They watch sports, and they go buy their lottery tickets. They've been zombified. They have no connection to anything. Me, I'm the same age as my old friends. I feel like I'm in my 20s. I feel the same as the gentleman that I talked into running in a local election back in 2010. And he was 65, I think, at the time. And he had run 20 years prior, and he wasn't going to run. He was 65. He's an old man. He's going to sit on his deck, ride his bike a bit, and just hang out on his deck and wait for his dirt nap. Well, I talked that guy into running. None of us got in because they know who we are. And 3 years later, he did get in when they ran some other counselors out. But to talk to him now, who's in his 70s, when I talked to him when he was 65, he was an old man. When I talked to him today, he's a man in his 20s. He's got a purpose again. There's this idea that, I'm retired, I don't want to be involved in anything. You just committed suicide. You've allowed your mind to get so weak, and your spine and your spirit, you're useless, period, to anybody or anything. Sitting around waiting to die. And that's what they depend on. So you become non-interested in anything. I was talking to my old friends last night when I got home, and I go like, I was just trying to have fun because it used to be all bands here. We used to have driving in town to roller rinks, bands playing at the arena, and bands playing at the beach pavilion. And this went up and down this shoreline from Wasaga Beach to Grand Bend, which is, I don't know what that is, 150 miles. Every community had bands playing. Every community was rocking and rolling in the summer. People all came up from the cities. Now these towns are dead. So I said, I was just goofing around. It's Saturday night, and I go, who's playing tonight? And they looked at me, oh, the Dodgers? Oh, no, for God's sake. I said, oh, man, like, who's playing? Remember back in the day? Oh, yeah. Well, you guys go watch your Dodgers game. Okay. And they probably bought their sport lottery ticket on the Dodgers and stuff like that. I mean, it's absolutely pathetic how people disengage from life. So we got to get re-engaged. When I look at my old friends, I am so happy I'm not one of them. It's like I was given this great present or something. I'm the same age as these guys, but I got a strong spirit, a strong mind. And they're dead. Or as the young girl at the store said, these people have been zombified. Look at them, right? Nobody's home. But we don't need all those people. You see, because when we take our countries back, those people ain't going to buck us. They don't get anything anyways. And that goes back, if you study coups, they all play out the same. Basically go back, we now return to your regular programming. And they go, oh, whatever that was. This idea that the masses are going to stand up and fight a civil war, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. How would a bunch of zombies all of a sudden, what'd they do, Ethel? Well, apparently they took our country back. Well, we should arm ourselves and fight them. Nah. What's on TV, Ethel? So we got the upper hand every way you look at this. We don't need that many people. We need an extremely small percentage of the population to do what needs to be done. I just suggest we get it done, that's all. And as Shawley and Hal and Clint and all these other guys do, we try to strengthen people. Try to get them going in the right direction. Trying to teach them to read, which is probably the most important thing. Because they wrote everything down. I mean, where the hell did we get our information from? Where did we get our knowledge from? We read. They write it down, and we consent. Why do we consent? Because we didn't read what they wrote. But I'm also convinced that the school system actually makes reading as unpalatable as possible.
Well, the school system is taking away statues and names of our founding fathers. Mm-hmm. Like I said before, like pulling down statues in Iraq and chiseling out history from ancient cultures. Now they're doing it here, and they're doing it in the States.
And we're allowing it.
Can we not just say, okay, enough's enough?
Well, that's all we have to do. That goes back to that stupid mem there with the card table with the slaves, which is us, holding the damn card table up for the global players. And I think the wording under it says something along, all we got to do is stand up and game's over. Because they're going to scatter their pieces. And if we did stand up and those guys that were playing, if the guys that were holding the table up stood up and the table went flying, and then those guys just simply get out of here, they would run. Simple as that. We're living in an animal house. or what do you call it, animal farm. Now, the thing that bothers me the most about our founding of our nations is Judeo-Christian. Now, okay, according to Judaism, we are the slaves of the Jews. We're the Goy. And who's feeding off us? They are. They're the money lenders. We pay interest. Jews and Muslims generally don't pay interest. Why is that? Okay, they got us on the bottom here. We got to rise up to the top. I got to tell you, we generally we've been very ignorant for way too long. We've never questioned. They tell us things and we just automatically believe them. I saw a thing out of Saskatchewan last night. They're pretty pissed off out there. I guess they got a refinery out there, and to turn oil into gasoline, and they're wondering why the hell their prices are so high, and how is what happened in Houston got anything to do with the price of fuel in Saskatchewan. So it gives them something else to whine and bitch about, but they don't do anything about it. They don't go take control of the refinery. They don't force anybody to put the price back where it's supposed to be. And it's the same thing as when I worked down there in Florida. I mean, we're just getting scammed constantly. Scam. And we put up with it. I guess we're so used to being scammed that it seems normal. Well, nothing you can do about it. Well, if there's nothing you can do about it, then you ain't in control of your nation. I want, before this show is over, Chris, I want to talk to you about what you said about the truck drivers. I meant to do that earlier and I forgot about it. And there's apparently an accident somewhere with some trucks. What's that all about?
Yeah, we were working in Inverary, and we were supposed to go to Mallory Town for the day, but we ended up going to Inverary instead, which is good because we were heading eastbound, and westbound traffic was blocked for like 5 miles on the 401 because of two separate accidents on Joyceville Side Road, which I know that means nothing other than I'm just for the sake of telling you where the accidents occurred in my area. And they happen a lot there, by the way. But yeah, one of the accidents, the transport driver was at fault. He crushed the car against the median and killed the driver of the car. So today in the paper, they released the name of the person that was killed in that accident, but they did not release the name of the driver of the truck, who is still pending charges, apparently. Now, it gets better. We have had a lot of dangerous situations going on the 401, which is a very major route for transports. And we've got a lot of Sikhs and a lot of Muslims that are starting to drive transports now. And they are causing issues with regular passenger vehicles because they really don't understand the rules of the road. But they have been given a license and they seem to be taken over. And now we're starting to see the results of what happens when they.
Well, my concern with this trucking system, because my nephew runs oil trucks or whatever out in Alberta. And, he explained to me last time he was back that the Muslims basically own the trucking industry out in Alberta now.
They own it here.
And what the problem with that is that if you think about it, everything in your community is trucked in. Everything.
Yeah, including the illegals.
Yeah, so we are not independent cities and towns. Everything's trucked in. They used to run it on rail cars and have inner city trucks, and then they moved it out, so the trucking industry owns it. Now, as the Muslims take over the trucking industry, they have the ability to shut down your town or city in a matter of minutes. If these truckers decide to go on strike, which I'm sure is going to come down the road here soon, they can shut your town and city down almost instantaneously. And that's going to put a big hurt on people. And now those who oppose us control us. They're back to Kissinger, to control the food, control the people, control the parts, control the people, control the transportation, control the people. So it's a very precarious position we're allowing ourselves to get into. Because when everything that comes into your town or city is trucked in, because we don't produce anything here in North America, produce squat. And if we lose control of our transportation system, we lose control. And this is all being put in place one piece at a time, okay, to make you be in a very vulnerable position and them to have complete and total control over you. And that ain't good. That's not good at all. So, I was surprised when my nephew told me just how much the Muslims had taken. I used to live in Calgary, Alberta, and Edmonton, Alberta, and it was basically white people and natives. And now, I'm having people tell me I wouldn't recognize the place. Now, I see they want to turn Edmonton into a sanctuary city now. So that will just increase the numbers. And, it's a pretty good plan. Now, how are we going to take the West down without bombing them? Well, let's work out a plan. You see, that's what these guys do. They work out a plan and they work the plan. We don't have a plan. So therefore, we have nothing to work. Therefore, we're sitting ducks. And we're being picked off like sitting ducks. So that's why I'm so happy about UCY.TV. Hopefully we can put a core of really strong people together and we can figure out some kind of a plan so that we can move the message out into the broader domain. Because what it really is a huge deprogramming situation. And I'm so proud of Chris's 15-year-old, and I'm so proud of Barry Prince's 17-year-old, because they're the future. And they got to get strong. And those with the knowledge are the only ones that are going to have any opportunity to make them strong. And as they strengthen, then they're going to strengthen their friends. Okay? And then we got something we can work with. And if we don't do that, then we're done. And I don't have any intention to be done, and I don't want to be the last of the Mohicans either. Okay, we're going to raise up, and we're going to kick the hell out of these people. Hear music. So thanks, Solly. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for that. And special to Hal. Hal's on deck.
Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line, lower classes.
Everybody have a great afternoon.
They don't matter, genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force them out, fuck them back, it's only for they want. They shoot, they kill, they master,